Good afternoon. We're happy to welcome you to the final session in the Public Pre-K Technical Assistance Series. My name is Sue Gallant. I'm the Pre-K Expansion Consultant with the Early Learning Team at the Department of Education, and I'll pass to my teammates to introduce themselves. Nicole?
Thank you, Sue. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Nicole Medor. I'm the Early Childhood Specialist on the Early Learning Team at DOE, and I believe we have Marcy as well.
And hi, everybody. I'm Marcy Whitcomb. I'm the Public Pre-K Consultant on the Early Learning Team.
You'll see here that there are several other members of our team who couldn't be with us today. Leanne Larson is our director. Stacy McCoy is our Head Start Collaboration Director. And Jane Kersling is our Pre-K Grant Specialist, who will be with us for a few more days. And our topic today is family engagement. I'll pass to Nicole, who's going to take it from here.
Thanks, Sue. So yeah, as we think about entering a new school year and transitioning students into our classroom settings, this topic of transition and the topic of family involvement and family engagement should be somewhere near the top of your planning list, right? So we want to make sure that families understand completely what their child is going to experience in your pre-K space, as much as we're able to say at the moment, right? So we hope that they know who their teacher might be, the location of their classroom, what type of hours or programming opportunities that their students or their children will have access to. So when we start to talk with schools about family involvement and family engagement, we like to sort of clarify the two, because it's not uncommon for folks to be confused or misunderstand the difference between these two things. And there is a difference, to be honest. So we did just want to take a minute, sort of highlight some of those pieces for you. So one thing that I tell folks is that we think of involvement as implying doing to. So when we say family involvement, it's things that we're doing to the family or asking parents how they can contribute to the classroom or to the school. So for example, this isn't uncommon. This is actually probably the most common form of family communication. It's outreach to families, asking them for their assistance through volunteering, for example, or asking them to supply items to the classroom like glue sticks, pencils, crayons, tissue boxes, cleaning supplies. It also might come around this theme or topic of projects, right? When you're working with the students towards a goal and you recognize that families can contribute in some way, whether they're a doctor, a veterinarian, or a carpenter, and asking them to sort of share their expertise in an area. It also can be around goals that are specific to the student or goals that are specific to the school. So you might send home information to the family informing them of what you're noticing, of what you're observing, and of ways that they can help you reach certain goals. So in this scenario of family involvement, families feel like helpers. They can follow the teacher's directions and suggestions. So there's always a place for family involvement. I don't want to send the message, do this, not that. It's really a and also, right? So if we're really comfortable and used to the examples that fall under family involvement, that's great. Don't stop what you're doing. But we also want to stretch our thinking to more of a family engagement approach as well. And what we mean by this is engagement as implying doing with. So no decision is made or no communication is done without the input of the family. So in this scenario, we are collaborating with and relating to the family of each child. There's a really clear effort to reach out to the families and the folks that are helping to care for the children outside of school. So some of the examples here might show up in the form of reciprocal relationships, right? So instead of you telling the parent what to do, you might say, hey, I had this idea. What do you think? What are you noticing? What is your experience with this in regards to your child? How can we help each other? It also is an example of decision-making and goal setting. So this is what I've seen your child, or how I've seen your child perform in the classroom. What are you seeing at home? What would be a goal that we could set and work together for your child's growth? It's two-way communication. Your outreach to the family is just as important as their outreach back or their response back, and vice versa. So we don't want to just communicate with families when the child is ill or when the child is misbehaving in the classroom, for example, right? We want to make sure that we're reaching out and engaging families in everything that's going on and happening in the classroom, positive and where there's possibly room for growth. This is home and community. So many children experience hours and hours outside of the school day and outside of their home. So what other areas of the community, what other experts, volunteers, and community members exist that help inform that child's experience as a child? And where can we learn and grow and include them as well? Participation in advocacy efforts, comprehensive program level systems, and more importantly, inclusion, right? So we want all of our students and all of their families to feel like they are a very important part of the classroom. They're an important cog in the wheel. We wouldn't be able to continue each day without their attendance, without their involvement, without their engagement. So in this family engagement scenario, families are equal partners in their child's education. They are providing you as much information about their child as you are providing them. So what is effective family engagement? So this is just a brief definition that we've had and have shared over the years. Family engagement is a collaborative and strengths-based process through which professionals, families, children, and community members build positive and goal-oriented relationships. So working with some of our other community partners throughout the state, and especially our Head Start partners, the following information provides our thoughts, our definitions, our examples, and all of those settings. So we want to imagine family engagement looking different for everyone, right? There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. And that shows up in our communication style as well. If the educator is most comfortable communicating via email, that might meet the needs of many of the family members in your class, but it might not fit the needs of all. Other families may communicate better through a phone or through face-to-face communication. So just making sure and recognizing that one approach may not be reaching all families in the same way. There's no wrong way to engage families, nor is there one right way. We're all bringing something different, a different experience to the table. We just want to remain open-minded about that and just recognize that some families by nature are going to engage more and are going to involve themselves more than others. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that other families aren't as involved in their child's education. It just means that it's a different level of engagement, a different level of involvement, and we shouldn't stop any approaches or any outreach for that. It is often a shift in mindset from previous thinking to a more cohesive and collaborative approach. And I'm actually going to talk about that a little more in a slide coming up, so I'm not going to elaborate too much on that just yet. So shifting your frame of mind, and this is going to lead me into what I was just mentioning, is shifting sort of from these items on the left into the items on the right over time and as necessary and as it fits the family's style of communicating and interacting. So individual responsibility might shift to a shared responsibility in a partnership with the family. A deficit-based or adversarial approach, like your child's misbehaving or your child isn't developmentally as advanced as his peers, etc., might shift to a strengths-based collaborative. I'm so glad your child was present today. This is the part of the day where we were successful. This is why I think we were successful. This is what I'm noticing over time. It might shift from random acts or random communications to systemic, right? I'm going to contact you once a week so we can discuss progress towards your child's goals. Or instead of just reaching out randomly, your child was good today, we're going to start sending home regular information or regular outreach regarding what's happening in the classroom that should be celebrated. Shifting from an add-on to an integrated approach, from an events-driven to a learning and outcomes-driven approach, from a compliance frame of mind to an ownership and continued improvement frame of mind, from a one-time project to a sustained communication, right? So I hope that you can see the difference here on the left to the right, where we're going from sort of these bulleted, pinpoint specific opportunities for family involvement into a more ongoing, expected, routine family engagement communication style. So here's another slide that's going to talk about some things that are familiar and where some possibilities might lie. So we all fall into these habits that we become very accustomed to, and that's fine. Like I was saying before in defining the difference between involvement and engagement of families, right? There's a place for both. It's not a this or that, it's a this and that. So some familiar habits that I think many of us can relate to are offering opportunities that are optional. Come if you can. If you're available, please let me know. Coming familiar events-based, math nights, literacy nights, end of year celebrations, mid-year holiday, birthday type celebrations. From a school-centered, where everything's happening as a school-wide event. A compliance-driven, we have to do this because we need to show that we've communicated with families at least twice a year, right? Those are the rules, those are the laws. An intermittent, non-routine, random to a head count, and then for some, head counts for some, excuse me, that shouldn't be double bulleted. And some of the possibilities that these lead to are central, sustained, family-centered, family-driven, goal-directed opportunities that are, again, systemic, specific to student impact for all. I did want to mention too, as I'm looking at the bottom where this information was pulled from, the multi-tiered systems of support for family engagement. When we think of our MTSS tiered approach to education in our schools, right? I think everybody is familiar with the term MTSS, or at least the term RTI, or response to intervention. And that is very much student driven and driven by what the student is willing and able to do in the classroom independently or with assistance as needed. So if we take that sort of broad mindset and apply it to family engagement, apply it to how we're communicating information about our students to their loved ones, it can really help to sort of hone in on what is being offered to every family, right? That tier 1 level of communication or outreach, everybody gets that. And then recognizing where or why perhaps some families might still not be responsive, and bumping up our efforts to a tier 2. So it's going to help some students, right? Or it's going to, excuse me, tier 2 is where it's helping some, not all, but tier 2 for family engagement would be like, we're going to communicate with families, some families this way, because we feel like it's going to have a better outreach. So tier 1 might be all families get a newsletter. Tier 2 might be some families get a phone call to back up the newsletter, assure it was received, assure it was read, if there's any translation opportunities that may be needed. And then if that's still not reaching all families, or if you're still finding barriers along the way of communication of engagement, then we might bump it up to a tier 3. For example, maybe a home visit, right? Or meeting the family face to face, so that the communication is very clear and translated and transported in a way that both parties are comfortable with. So that's just sort of the way we tier instruction. We might tier our communication of efforts for family engagement. There's a lot more to be said there. The reference here explains it in much more depth, but I did just want to mention that. So again, this is another visual from our Head Start partners to show some other impact strategies and how they could be moved from low impact to high impact. Perhaps you might categorize these as low impact or family involvement, up to high impact, which could be considered family engagement. There's some really good examples here, and you can see how they move across this continuum. And then this purple circle just is meant to highlight those higher impact, maybe even tier 2, tier 3 level approaches of engagement. So things like home visiting, things like positive phone calls home, classroom observations where parents come in and interact with the child or observe them without being seen, setting goals based on the child's current area of development and what might be appropriate to come next. Regular personalized communication. Hopefully you can see how these are sort of a next level compared to things such as fundraisers, potlucks, family support services, and celebrations. And these sort of move along this continuum to high impact strategies. Okay, some quick benefits of family engagement. Families benefit while learning more about child development in general and specifically as it's applied to their children. So there are many families that exist, right, who have young children, but don't necessarily have a clear understanding of early childhood development. And that's okay, right? Our educators and our administrators in our school do. And we should be sharing what is appropriate, what is expected, what is typical development and typical behavior, and what is not. And if you're seeing things about the child in the classroom that should be celebrated, or seeing things that should be discussed in terms of appropriate behavior or learning delays, what have you, then we need to educate the families about that. Because if they're not sure, or if they don't have a background or experience with early childhood development, then it certainly could be a learned experience for them. And vice versa, parents have lived with these young children for a long time and have a lot to share with you as well about their children's routines and how they behave and how they respond and react to certain stimuli. Engagement in the preschool years contributes to the success of children, family engagement, that is. We know that children and families with low incomes experience added benefits from their early childhood education when their families are engaged with their child care or their child's school. Programs with effective family engagement respond best to the individual needs of diverse families, have a better understanding and can relate better to families with diverse needs. And students experience improved social, emotional, and behavioral development when families are engaged. Strong family engagement efforts can support improved transitions among grades and into school. And intensive support such as home visiting and parent group membership have the strongest impact on child outcomes. Just going to hand it over to Marcy to introduce this video while I get it set up in the background.
Great, thanks, Nicole. That was a lot of really great information around effective family engagement. The Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction has put a video together that kind of pulls it all together. So we're going to take about 5.5 minutes to watch this video.
Thank you.
As we work to help every child succeed and to close gaps in student achievement, we often assume school is the main place that learning is going to happen. Take Esma. It used to seem to her family and her educators that Esma is always at school. Not true, it turns out. Esma and other students actually spend 82% of their waking hours at home or in their community. All those weekends, weeknights, and breaks add up. When they realized that, the educators in Esma's school district decided to work harder on making the most of the biggest partner in her learning life, her family. This can look different in every school, but for Esma's teacher, it means instead of spending his time arranging a traditional open house, he organizes grade-level parent meetings. Here, Esma's family saw data on how the class is doing in math, reading, social and emotional learning. They practiced new ways to help Esma at home and set goals for how they'll help her improve. Everyone learned from each other as the group talked about how to help the students. Also, near the start of the school year, some staff from Esma's school visited her home. They looked for the assets her family members can bring to the educational process. They learned about their languages, their culture, their lives, their world. Grandpa offered to be a resource for other English learner families, and the school also listened and learned from the family's perspective on Esma's needs. They learned how Mom helps her calm down and focus. This kind of family engagement also makes it easier for the district to develop individualized education programs for students, including those in special education. The foundation is already there for families to engage in their students' academic and career planning too, making that more effective. Throughout the year, the family can attend workshops at the school on things like mental health, homework, or career exploration. Esma's mom saw those meetings on a poster in her work break room, and now she's inviting other parent friends to go with her. Esma's school district works with local businesses, places of worship, the public library, and other partners to reach students and families where they're already spending time. The school provides information frequently in a variety of ways so they can reach every family. Text messages are offered in the most common languages of local families. Esma's family gets photos from her teacher so they know what she's doing during the day. Communication between the school and the family is a group effort focused on helping Esma achieve her learning goals. When Esma wasn't sure what to do on a science assignment, her family knew to contact the teacher for a little clarification. Educators take a positive approach as they look for solutions to any challenges experienced on either side. They're always looking for the family's strengths. Also, when Mom mentions that Esma has trouble making friends, the teacher knows to refer her to the school counselor. The counselor then helps the family join a local Boys and Girls Club with lots of activities for Esma. The teacher knew to do this because the school counselor led staff trainings on resources available in the community and how to help families access them. There's no danger of a family like Esma's ever feeling like an occasional onlooker. The school knows what families have to offer, and the family knows what's going on in the classroom and how to support it. They feel they are active and regular collaborators and decision makers. The district gives families opportunities to learn how to help children succeed at each level of the school system and to serve on school groups. At school gatherings, Esma's adult stepsister and close next-door neighbor also feel included in the community. Staff at the school are trained to be as inclusive as possible, welcoming as learning partners anyone who cares about the child. Esma's school has moved from parent involvement to family engagement. Not surprisingly, engaged families help students learn better. Staff members like their jobs better. Everyone wins. This is backed up by over 40 years of research. Students with engaged families, no matter their income, background, or culture, are more likely to do well in school, enroll in ambitious courses, graduate, and go on to post-secondary education. They also have stronger social skills and fewer disciplinary issues. So how do we make it happen? First, we work to make the shift across an entire school district. Sure, at the elementary level, Esma's classroom teacher is the main person her family interacts with at school, but as she gets older and her schooling more complex, collaboration is definitely bigger than one person. Really, all along the way, the family's interactions with pretty much everyone in connection with the school, from office staff to after-school staff, from bus drivers to principals, will need to be positive for them to truly feel welcomed. So it's a clear expectation in the district. Every employee has a role in helping every family feel connected to their child's learning, no matter what building or classroom that child attends. In Esma's district, a broad team that included school psychologists, social workers, counselors, families, general and special educators, and after-school program staff helped everyone in the school take family engagement to this next level in a way that works for their community. It worked. Esma's family feels like a valued member of the team. Esma, her family, and her educators feel confident that she is learning and happy at school. We have more information about how schools and families can effectively engage with each other around students' learning on our website.
So as this is our final session of our technical assistance series, we'll be wrapping up by giving you our email addresses. If you have any questions about any of our sessions, you can feel free to email us. Thank you for joining us today for our session on family engagement and for any of the other sessions that you sat in along the way. Have a great afternoon.